Alright, today we're going to install a Yamaha Rhino machine clutch sheave and tuner kit for a Yamaha Rhino 700. First things first, you have to remove your seats as well as the engine cover. After that, you need to remove this plastic surround that covers the bottom of the seat frame area. Using a Phillips head screwdriver, you can simply remove the screws and pull the rivets out that hold the plastic on. There's about 6 or 7 of these. Go ahead and pull them off. And when you get done doing that, hit pause and wait for me to come back and we'll do the next step. Alright guys, next we're going to go ahead and remove the 4 bolts that hold the seat latch on to the seat frame area. Also, there's another bolt on the front that holds the engine cover on. You're going to remove that one as well. The one that holds the engine cover bracket on is a 14 millimeter. After you get done doing that, you're going to go ahead and remove the coil as well as the CVT tube on the clutch bracket here using a 10 millimeter socket. And relocate the coil up and out of the way on top of the clutch cover. Then you remove the 2 Phillips screws that hold the bands on the CVT tube, which is on the front inlet of it as well as the back side back there. Go ahead and pause the video, do that, and come back. Okay, after you remove the seat frame out of the way, you're going to remove the 10 millimeter bolts that hold the clutch cover on. There is roughly 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 or so of them. Go ahead and remove all of those, pause the video, and then come back. After you remove all the bolts, go ahead and remove the clutch cover, and then we can start working on your clutch. Pause the video and we'll go over the next step. After you remove the clutch cover, you're going to remove the squirrel cage that goes over your actual clutch housing. Using a 10 millimeter socket, there's 4 bolts that hold this on. Remove those and come watch the video again. After you remove the 4 bolts that hold the cage on, go ahead and remove it. Now you need to remember which ones you take out and which locations because they're different sizes. There's 2 short ones that go in the upper left and the lower right, and the 2 long ones go in the upper right and the lower left. You're going to use the 2 longer ones to actually compress the secondary when you get done with your next step. Go ahead and pause the video, go do that, and come back. Okay, after you go ahead and remove all that stuff, you're going to now take the nuts that hold the secondary and the primary on. Using an impact, just go ahead and remove the 2 nuts, one on the secondary and one on the primary, and then go ahead, pause the video, go do that, and come back. After you remove the nuts from the primary and the secondary, on the secondary you're going to remove the fan as well as the little spacer collar that goes on there. Next you're going to use the 2 long bolts that you took from the squirrel cage and you're going to thread them into the secondary to separate apart so that way when you reinstall the primary, the belt has enough slack to go ahead and install easily. After you compress your secondary, go ahead and pull the metal collar that separates your inner fixed sheave half and your primary sliding sheave, and then go ahead and remove your belt as well. Next, you're going to remove the secondary clutch. As you can see, it already came out pretty easily. Lift up on the engine cover and pull the secondary out. Pause the video, go do that, and come back. Okay, after you pull the secondary out of the car, you need to remove the spring, the factory spring off your secondary. Using, this one's an 1 13/16. You can go ahead and just use an impact and remove the spring. It will fly up at you a little bit, but remove the factory spring, then go grab your UTV Crap spring compressor, your new EPI secondary spring, and we'll show you how to put that on. Alright, after you get your UTV Crap spring compressor set up and ready to go ahead and slide the secondary over the shaft. On this particular car, we're installing a gold spring due to certain modifications done to it. Some cars are different depending on what you're going to be using it for. Make sure the bottom of the spring is inside the cup of the secondary. Make sure this top spring cap cups over the top of the spring as well. Put your nut on. Using a 3/4 inch wrench, you're going to thread this down to compress your secondary spring. Pause the video, go do that, and come back. After you compress the spring, you're going to finger tighten the nut that holds the secondary spring on, and then go ahead and remove the tension, and then hit it with an impact to tighten it down. Pause the video, after you do that, come back. Next, we're going to go ahead and take the 8 screws that hold the primary cap on. Go ahead and remove those, pause the video, and come back and check it out what we're going to do next. After you remove the 8 screws, you're going to go ahead and pull the cap off. It will be kind of hard to pull off, but if you just work your way around the outside edges of it, using pressure off the cam plate and your thumbs off the back of the sheave, you should be able to pull it off pretty quick and easy. Pause the video, go do that, and come back. After you remove the cap, you're going to remove your cam plate as well as your 8 roller weights inside your primary sliding sheave half. Go ahead and remove these, and that way we can start the next step of actually re-greasing and putting it in your new sheave. Pause the video, go do this, and come back for the next step. After you remove the weights, don't forget to remove the cap seal that holds the seal around the cap on as well. Okay, so here we have the UTV Crap machine sheave for the Yamaha Rhino 700. Now, as you can see, it's a brand new sheave that's never been installed or greased, so what we're going to have to do is actually put the grease in the sheave and then install the weights. I've already went ahead and did that in another one. As you can see by this one, we've actually installed the cam plate as well. I just took it back out because I forgot to show this part. But you're going to use about a little tablespoon size, teaspoon size, little glob of we use a Mobil 1 synthetic grease. Drop it into the valley where the weights are going to roll. Drop your weights in. Then you're going to reinstall your cam plate. Compress it down. And then reinstall the cap as well. Make sure your seal is around the cap. Pause the video, go do this step, and come back for the next. After you put the cap back on the clutch and everything, get that all buttoned down, you need to reinstall the secondary back into the motor. It's as simple as just taking it back out, slide it right back in the same way, and that's that. After you reinstall the belt, go ahead and put the spacer and the fan back onto your secondary. Make sure the little fins that are pointing out off the fan go into the motor. Make sure that your splines are all lined up on this before you go ahead and put the nut back on. Go ahead and pause the video, go do that, and come back. After you reinstall the fan, go ahead and put the nut back on and tighten it down with an impact. Pause the video, go install this, and come back for the next step. Reinstall the metal collar that separates your fixed primary half and your sliding sheave half back onto your output shaft. Keep pressure onto your cam plate using your thumbs and reinstall the sheave back onto your clutch assembly. Make sure that once you get it on, that you have enough of the splines sticking out off through the cam plate. After you get the sheave back on, make sure the splines are showing through the cam plate. Reinstall your factory washer and your factory nut while keeping pressure still on the cam plate. Now, this car did have an EPI severe duty belt installed, which means I had to take the secondary nut back off and the fan to compress the secondary to go ahead and get enough slack out of it to go ahead and get this one installed. Some of them will have to do that, not all the time though. Some of them just depends on what sheave, or what belt you have. Go ahead and pause the video, go install your sheave. Basically after that, button everything back up, finish installing all the stuff you took back off. When you put the clutch, after you install it, make sure the belt rides out all the way, and go out and ride.